Just waiting for all of the live to work, and it looks like we are live. So it's a week to go till Christmas, and it looks like, yeah, everything is live. So welcome, welcome. I'm just making sure we're live on all the streams. So I like doing these lives from home. So it's all me here. So please do let me know where you're joining from. I can see the chat here. We're going to go through it so I can see live chat. So I can see if you're here or not, so say hi in the chat. But I'm going to go through the 5 ways that are predictable, reliable, that you can start to think about now for 2025. So if you're joining me, hi Pete, nice to see you there, and Alessandro and Ephraim. I'm going to walk through the 5. I'm going to explain the pitfalls and the advantages of each, and then you can make your mind up which one is which is the best one for you. So we're going to go through it today. If you've never been on any of my webinars, whatever we call these things these days, um, feel free to ask questions. Let me know where you're joining from. If after this you think, oh, damn, I wish I had put that in the chat or asked that question, just message me on LinkedIn or wherever you're watching this, and I will share it. It's great to have so many people on LinkedIn and YouTube and a few different places here. So I've got all the chat here. So hi, Reese. Hi, Dunstan. So I'm literally going to go through them. You can make your mind up, ask questions about each one as we go. And then literally, it's about 2025 is not about you doing more. It's about doing something simpler and more straightforward and more focused. Chris, yes, we will record the session. So message me if you want the recording. Hi, Greg. See you at 4 or in an hour or so, 2 hours time. So I'm going to walk these through and then kind of give you a comparison of each one at the end. So buckle up and feel free to ask questions as we go. Let me just get my screen to actually work. So there's, hi, Barbara. There's 5 paths to winning clients on LinkedIn, and they all work. Let me just say this, they all work, but they all require different levels of commitment, and they all of them might not suit you. So you kind of have to figure out which is the best path to you. And I say this because I've seen some people spending 10 plus hours on content to get 1 or 2 clients. And I'm going, what are you doing? What are you doing? If your primary goal is I need 1 or 2 clients per month, why are you trying to replicate the model of an influencer? Hi, Oliver, Droitwich, and Duncan from Norwich. There's lots of witches here. Droitwiches. Sorry, that was my joke. Um, that's a lame joke. So I see people doing this all the time. So they'll basically go on LinkedIn, look at what a content creator is doing, and going, "I must do that. That equals success." And then I'll catch up with them a few months later, and they're totally burnt out, not getting any results, and it's like, "What are we doing here?" So I wanna kind of break down the 5 different ways because they'll fit for different people. So, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. So, first one of my favorites. So, the first one on LinkedIn is through webinars and events. So, this is my favorite one because it's the easiest to do. It's the easiest to get sign-ups, it's the easiest to get leads, it's the easiest to get clients. It's just easy. Um, and another reason, hey, Kate, Kwaku. Um, the other reason I like it is you can start wherever you are on LinkedIn. You don't need thousands of followers. You don't need, to go viral. It's far more in your control than any of the others. But the other reason I like it is because if you're selling yourself, so your own expertise, um, your own knowledge, you're a coach of some kind, people have to buy into you to buy from you. It's not like, "Oh, I've got a bit of tech," and they can try it out and say, "That's cool." This is, "Can I work with you? Can I Do I believe in you?" And so I think webinars are the easiest way to do it. Now, there are some caveats of how to do them. Most people make the mistake of making like, QVC online shopping style webinar, or they cram in this big call to action at the end that nobody pays attention to, or they do like empty webinars. And you'll have seen these all the time. It's like there's no actual value in them. They're just like manipulative sales pitches. I'm a firm believer in trying to give as much value as possible in webinars, um, but doing it in a structured way that it builds that belief that your solution is the best. So I do these all the time. I will be doing it all the time, probably every other week or every week in 2025, because they build in so much predictability into my business. And so when somebody comes to me, if they're for whatever we're doing and they're selling their knowledge, expertise, or it's a person to person service, I say webinars are absolutely a no-brainer because you can reach people at scale, you can help people at scale, and you can help people see your value at scale and get them to buy into you. So they're powerful because it adds a bit of scale without, waiting and hoping for an algorithm. And there's a few different ways you can do them. You can do like this live, you can do them on Zoom. I do them live on LinkedIn. They're far more effective. But if you're a little bit techie, Zoom works too. It's just you have to be a bit more organized to help people get there. So webinars, path number one is probably the easiest path you can go down in 2025 to actually get clients. So, and afterwards here, I'm going to set you a challenge of going away and thinking about these paths. And I want you to think about and go, which is my path? Because see it all the time. People flit between paths, strategy, tactics, never really make any strategy their own, and just drift with, "I've done this person's thing, then this person told me to do this, then this person's told me to do this." That's the worst thing you can do. Choose a path and then invest the time in making it work for you. So, the other thing about this path as well, the webinars, it's not heavy on time. So, if you think about content, that's gonna be very heavy on time, but webinars is quite light. You can do this, 5 hours a month. It's pretty simple. So, this is the lightest touch to LinkedIn. So everything else from here involves a bit more time, but you can do this in about 5 hours a month. Oh, gone the wrong way. So that's path number 1, webinars, right? LinkedIn events, all that good stuff. Next one, yeah, relationship building. Now this is a bit more difficult, but it's actually the least salesy outreach. So if you're not comfortable with, more direct outreach, social engagement is probably the way. It's like a relationship building. So this is where you would interact with people before and build a relationship with them so that you earn the opportunity for them to actually go on a call with you. So it is a bit softer than kind of classic, heavy direct outreach, but it is effective. And the idea being is you've got outbound, engaging, interacting, sharing things with your target audience, not just through content, because content's another one we'll look at a bit later. And you do that and engage them to the point where they're open to a conversation. And that can be, let's have a virtual coffee to, I think I'm gonna be able to help you. Are you free for a chat? So it's quite soft. So again, if you're not comfortable with more direct approaches, this is a pretty good way to go. So I would focus on this one if you're again selling yourself, yeah, because it's a bit tricky trying to sell yourself through DMs aggressively. It's tough because it messes with your head. So this involves basically creating a plan of say 7 to 8 touch points, interactions in a plan and then literally asking to have a conversation after that period. So, um, this is the simplest way to do outreach. It's the lightest, least salesy. I'm going to show you a comparison chart of all of these at the end. show you the differences between the 5. So a lot of people do this. A lot of salespeople, a lot of enterprise sales do a version of this where the deal cycle is quite long, or where you know that you can't really say, "I know I can help you," until you get on a conversation and get talking. So it's not just about commenting, it's about lots of different interactions, what we call DM commenting, loading calls, and putting a series of activities together to take prospects on a relationship building journey. And again, this, if you have a plan and you write it down, and maybe I'll show you my planning canvas before we finish as well. This is not complicated. This is not difficult. Anybody can do this, and again, it doesn't have to take, you can do this in about half an hour, 40 minutes a day, and be getting leads and calls every week. Um, a lot of people fail at this because they don't have a system to run it, but ultimately, diarised actions, all that kind of stuff, that's why most of this fails, but it's very simple to do. And again, I'll show you, if you wanted to see it, I'll show you some examples. So path number 2, social engagement. So you'd like and comment, you'd send a DM comment, you'd do 8 touch points, um, at least at least a third to half of them are more relational, social, LinkedIn social, and then the other half are more interest and topic centric, to get a meeting and a conversation. So path number 2 is a pretty reliable path, 40 minutes a day on average, and ease. It's not too tricky, and I'll explain how you make this really simple. After we've done the paths, I'll explain that. So path number 3, newsletters. Now this is quite a difficult path, right? And the reason why it's difficult is sign-ups, right? So it's not impossible, but if you're thinking about how long will it take you to make money, the other 2 we've just seen are faster. This is a bit more longer term, and it works by building an email list or a LinkedIn newsletter so you can sell through the newsletter or the email list. And you can string this onto the other activities. So you could do the LinkedIn newsletters and the webinars, and they work really well together. But this is a standalone strategy in itself. So the aim of this is you build a LinkedIn newsletter. LinkedIn helps you get subscribers, and the newsletter has to be specific. You can't just say team's thoughts. It has to be focused. And then you share your ideas around the problems you solve for your clients with calls to action in those emails, with calls to action in that newsletter on LinkedIn. And it scales really well. It helps build your thought leadership, and you're a little bit more immune to algorithms than you would be if you were you just straight on content. So again, it's quite difficult. It's not something, hello, Richard. It's not something that you would do kind of willy-nilly. You would have to think this through and go, "Can I commit to publishing a weekly newsletter? Can I make sure I do that without fail? Have I really researched my target audience? I understand their challenges." You wanna put all that together because that's the main path that you'd be pursuing. So, probably not a good thing for somebody who's selling a salesperson because, it's quite a lot of investment, and it's all inbound. That's the key difference. The other 2, let me just go back a second. This one is outbound, and this one is kind of a hybrid. It's a bit of inbound and outbound because you got them to the webinar, but the follow-ups and all that kind of stuff, you can get inbound off that. So that's like hybrid inbound and outbound, can't say it. This one is 100% outbound, and the newsletters is 100% inbound. So whenever you're pursuing an inbound lead strategy, whether that's through just post content or newsletters, you have to have a really refined, really focused approach, discipline, because you're basically going for the most difficult way to get leads, which is inbound. Not impossible, but it's an investment of time, it's an investment in a plan, and you can't just pick it up and drop it whenever you choose. You have to really, really lock it down. Okay, number 4. Now, this is kind of in the middle, um, and Richard, you've done this one actually. This one's kind of really in the middle. So this one is kind of more direct and fast. It's very fast, but requires research. So basically what you do is you connect, you do a little bit of engagement, it's quite a short cycle, and then you send a very, 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 very personalized outreach. So I'm not talking about, "Hey, first name, I see you're at company name. We help people with atypical problem." This is, like, unique to them. It's, we did it we called it presentations, or you can do Loom videos, but it's hyper personalized. And before some of you say this, "Oh, I could get AI to do all of this automated," you can, but it's not as effective. And likewise, with this kind of approach, you also probably want to think about, is this the best route for you if you've got something that's not expensive? So by that, I mean, if you spend, I don't know, let's say you spend 15 to 20 minutes on a lead doing them through this process. Obviously, you're doing multiple leads at a time. Um, would closing one lead make it all worthwhile? And, you wanna think about that, because if you're selling something for 500 quid or $500, this is probably not the best way to go, because it's it's high touch, very, very high touch. So, um, yes, yeah, Richard, exactly. The bit that makes this work is the targeting and the research. If you don't do the research, it's just pointless. It's just another generic message, just with a bit of novelty to it. So, really tightly researched. Path number 4. So, as we've seen, I'll just flick back through these so you can see. Yeah, we've got path number 1, which I believe is the easiest. Yeah, it's the easiest because you can play a little bit of a numbers game, but, um, you don't have to spend a lot of time doing it, and it's not it's not as an automated sales pitches, which don't really work. Social engagement's probably a bit easier. Newsletters, tough, not the toughest, but tough. And then targeted outreach is kind of in the middle. Very, very specific, unique, but cutting to the chase. So in other words, it's gotta be, like, really sharp. You really understand their business, you've done the research, and you show them that you've done the research. That wins you the call, and then it's down to you on that call to actually help the client see that you can help them. So path number 4 is probably middle of the road. Then we come to the most difficult path, but the most oversold path. There are a lot of grifters on LinkedIn selling this path, knowing full well the majority of the people they sell this to will never achieve success. And I'm just gonna say this now, it's content. It's content. Now, you will see across LinkedIn people telling you how they post every day and engage, and they just get leads drop into their inbox. And if you buy their course, they can show you how to do it too. The majority of people fail at this one. Now, I'm not trying to dissuade you. I'm not trying to kind of, well, throw people under the bus. I'm trying to be honest. It is difficult, but it's the one that people are drawn to the most, because the idea of posting and people loving what we do and all those leads coming in is something we want to believe can happen. But for the majority, it's really difficult. That said, it is a long game. So if you do it consistently and you learn from every post and refine what you're doing, yes, it can work. But for most people, what happens is they can't see through the long game. Typically, I might spend 10 hours a week or more creating and coming up with posts. That's 10 hours. Now, out of that, I have to learn from every post. I have to look back at what's worked, what's not, what's changed, what used to work that doesn't. I'm constantly learning. And then LinkedIn throws in a change and I have to adapt to it. But if you're prepared to go on that journey and you're prepared to, on average, it takes 17 months for somebody to be successful in this space, then you can really make it work. So this is about posting consistently on the platform 5 days a week and sharing a mixture of what we call attract content that builds a growth content, basically, and also content that adds value so people can build trust in you. And of course, social proof and what we call convert post. Um, and Oliver, you're absolutely right. It is an investment. Content is a massive investment. Now, if you get it right and you go on that journey and you commit to that journey, it can be very, very beneficial for you. But I want to just like throw a bit of cold water today because it's something you shouldn't just go into because it's exciting. Because you will experience like highs and lows. The highs being you get inbound leads, the lows being some days, some weeks, some months. It's like nothing until you get to a point where there's a critical mass where it actually can keep propelling itself. So you kind of need those five. And Richard will say, uh, I would dissuade people about this. Frankly, just posting content alone, you will not win. I agree that if you do this as we do, it's a long game. I'm talking years, but you need to post engaging content every day. Yeah. And Greg, yeah, fleeting image, like TV or radio. You're only as good as your last post. So you are playing a game where you're saying, I am going to try and compete with other people. So you're competing in the feed, you're competing with other people, you're competing with an algorithm. And I know I'm sounding like I'm pissing on it, and I am a little bit because my experience has been everybody goes to this one first, burns themselves out, and then goes trying everything else and struggles because they won't invest the time because they've been burnt doing this. And so content creation is a great way to go, but it is that long term. If you're going, I'm coming to LinkedIn and in the next 3 to 6 months, I want to get a flow of clients and leads, content is not going to do it for you. Despite everything you're told in the feed, yeah, despite everything you're told in the feed, I can promise you most of it is bullshit. I was talking to somebody this morning who had 12 million impressions this year, 19 million impressions last year. And I was talking to him instead, and literally, we had this conversation about, um, this can you get inbound? Most people are doing it for inbound, but it only kind of starts to happen at a level where you can live off it when you're getting into that kind of 10 million impressions in that way. It's very, very difficult to actually do it below your kind of, average users might be 1 million impressions a year. Very, very difficult. So I'm not saying don't do it, but it is think about it as a 17-month journey you go on. At the end of that 17 months, will it reward you? Probably yes, but you have to be prepared to go on that journey for 17 months at least. And that's not my stats, by the way. That's Goldman Sachs research of influencers and the time it takes to get to positive revenue. Um, Understand, yeah, a lot of people do that, right? A lot of people do that where they're sharing stuff and hoping for the best. And you need to put stuff out. You want to put stuff out, but with strategic engagement, maybe even the social engagement strategy with it, it can help. But I always say to people, think of the content, at least in your first year of LinkedIn, think of your content as the icing on the cake. It's not the cake. And I'm sorry if this is like bursting some people's bubbles, but you need the fundamentals right. Do I have a system to get leads that is not vulnerable to an algorithm? Yes. Okay. Now, everything I do on top, I know LinkedIn could change the algorithm and kill content completely, and it's done it many times, by the way. I've still got a base to operate from. My business, my whole revenue stream is not vulnerable to LinkedIn saying, "Actually, we're gonna make it really, really difficult for you to reach people." So, let me just put them up as a comparison, then I'll show you like a canvas that you can work off. And if anybody wants this canvas, just message me on LinkedIn, I'll send it to you. So, let's just put them side by side so you can see, right? So, I should have done this the other way round really. So, webinars is probably the easiest to do and the second least salesy. So if you can see it here on screen. Yeah, I'm a bit burnt out. Let me just wave myself over there to see if I can like, it feels very bright in here. So webinars is the easiest, least time consuming to do, and the 2 on the salesy scale, with 5 being the highest salesiness. Salesiness? Is that a thing? But it's quite quick to get a result. So, 1 to 2 months and you're away. Social engagement, bit higher on the salesy scale, but again, 3 hours a week. You can do it pretty quick, and it's medium time to results. It might take you a month to get into it, but 2 to 3 months in, you should be getting consistent results. Newsletter, probably the least, second or lowest on the salesy scale. Yeah, it's not too heavy. It's quite soft, really. But you probably take you 4 hours a week, 4 or 5 hours a week, something like that, because you'll have to write it and prepare it. And then you can use a newsletter to create your other content, so use it as a feeder. But the journey on that, it might take you 4 to 6 months to get it to work really, really well and predictably. And then, personalized outreach, the most salesy, the most direct, probably 5 hours a week, but it's very, very quick to implement. So very, very quick to see results. Uh, Glenn, depends on what you're selling. I'll come back to that question in a minute, Glenn, on that. And then content creation, that's the longest burn, but it's the least salesy. So it'll take you more time, least salesy, but, it's probably gonna take 6 to 12 months. I'd say longer, to be honest, just to there are people who do it faster, but I'd rather say longer, uh, than you try and defy the odds. Oliver's made a good point there. He's tried targeted outreach a few times on Sales Navigator. Seems effective for service providers, but didn't find it as effective for a product supplier. So, Oliver, what I would say here is what you have to do is think about LinkedIn not as the channel to sell. Now, I know this sounds like, "Well, Dean, what are you saying here? Because you're telling me to win clients on LinkedIn and then saying you're not going to win the clients on LinkedIn." All of your strategies here, all 5 of them, the objective of them all is to get people on the call. So get people on calls. On the calls, that's where you find their needs. So Oliver, in your scenario, the piece that you wanna do is literally it's just selling the value of a call. So you get people on a call, and then that's where the selling bit happens. But I agree, if you're in a business or an industry where there's a lot of timing involved, you have to have a slightly different approach, because if the timing is they either need it or they don't, um, a bit like if somebody's entered into like an IT contract for 3 years and you can't get to them, you do have to outreach to a lot more people. So they're the 5 main approaches. And what I wanted to just show you before I kinda wrap up, Aries, yes, uh, correct. It does depend on how many people join them, but if you do the webinars in a way I you will get, the right people join. First thing is the right people join. If you get the right people signing up, and that comes down to focus on the titles and what you're gonna deliver in the webinars. A lot of webinars are just, like, educational. They're either salesy or so educational that people joining them, there's no buying intent, so you need to build a webinar around buying motivations. That's how you get the conversions easier. But, a lot of people, when it comes to webinars, They often try and take people off the platform into complex processes when what you want people to do is just show up wherever they are. And so you have to make it easy for people to get through. And, a lot of these systems, ClickFunnels and all that kind of stuff, they just make it so complicated or so salesy. You want it to be educational, but with a educational around the buying motivations. That's the most important part. Let me just show you this canvas, and if anybody wants this canvas, they can have it. All of the strategies kind of work off the base of. Now, I haven't talked about lead magnets. I haven't talked about all the other things because I talk about them more as um, um, quick win campaigns, things that you can do around these five core things. So they're around, because if you think about a lead magnet, it's a drip, drip, drip. It's not something that is deployed and can work consistently all day long. So let me just bring some clarity here because this will help you. Whichever path you go down, whichever path you go down, and if you want to chat to me, just privately message me on LinkedIn and we'll have a chat about which path is right for you and I'll give you some tips. Whichever path you go, you are one person. You're one person on one platform with finite time. And in that scenario, you're not Coca-Cola, with a million marketers and an infinite ad budget. You are one person. So you have to think about how you manage that from a bandwidth point of view. And it's easier for you to actually make one of those paths work if you clearly identify what am I selling? Who am I selling it to? And I don't mean everybody, and I don't mean three different groups. You cannot run a process trying to sell to three different buyers, three different things at the same time. You can't do it. I'm not talking about niching down here. I'm just talking about practicalities. You can't talk to a managing director, a finance director, and a solopreneur, and a freelancer, and all these different people and do it well, because you'll have to kind of genericize your message so that the managing director might see something in it and they might see something in it. So it's very difficult to sell, even if you're selling the same thing to three different types of buyer persona is near impossible for one person to do and do efficiently. So the first thing is, what am I selling? Yeah. And if I can sell three different things, highly encourage you to sell one thing first. Get a system working where you sell one thing, you've got proven success, it's reliable, it's predictable, and then you can branch out. And you go, "Oh, I'll sell this to this person now, and I'll add more time because I know I can afford to add more time because I can hire a VA or I can get a member of the team to help me because I've already got success here, paying for itself in this area of LinkedIn." So one thing, sell one thing to one buyer persona. That's the first job. Then you go, how am I going to do it? One of the five paths. And I'll pull up that comparison chart before we leave. You can screenshot it, or whatever. And then you think about how am I going to do the three core parts to the process? The connection, and that can be short or quick, depending on which process you're doing. The curiosity, the interest, aligning with the buyer intent, and how do I start that conversation? Every path has those three parts. How do I build the connection? How do I build the curiosity, the interest level, the intent, where their interest lies, and how do I get the conversation? They're the three parts. Every path has those three parts, 100% all the time. So that's the 7 steps as we talk it, and then make the ask. Often it happens off LinkedIn. So the sales pitch, if you want to call it that, most of the time will not happen on LinkedIn. It will actually happen on a discovery call or a webinar. Um, Oliver, sometimes I've had a competitor call me out in the comments, and then I've just literally ignored them and then gone, "No, this is why you're wrong." Uh, it's unprofessional behavior, and I think people would see through it if people behave like that. So these 3 parts to be in everything. And then, these are examples, right, of different processes, a bit like the paths. You have to write your process down, like, literally step by step. If you don't know what you're gonna do next with a prospect, how do you convert them? You know, you'd be surprised how many people I talk to, and I say, "So what's your process for LinkedIn?" And it's quite sketchy, they're quite vague, they don't know what they're doing next, and the problem with that is if you don't know what you're doing next, you're just making it up as you go along. So that if you think about it, I want predictable ways to win clients, but my approach is to make it up as I go along. And let's be honest, you be honest with yourself. Do you have a written down process? Have you written it down? Have you diarized actions? Have you planned it out? Most people don't. Let's be honest, they don't. And the reason why they don't is because social media, it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be all this stuff, and they treat it like a hobby. And if you want serious business, if you wanna get in on the platform, get the leads and opportunities, and get out, you need a plan for that. Now, of course, if you're gonna use LinkedIn as a social channel too, and you like going on LinkedIn, that's no problem, but divide your time. Don't fool yourself. When you're on LinkedIn because it's business, it's business. I know why I'm there, what I'm doing, who I'm doing it to, is a way in a manner of speaking. I do that work and I leave. That's what you need a GTM for, a go-to-market strategy, or in other words, the plan, the broken down steps of what you're gonna do, the actions that you're gonna do. But when it's social time and you're just scrolling and having a bit of fun, fine, do whatever you want. But don't confuse the 2. Being on LinkedIn does not mean you're productive. Yeah? There's many a time I've done this, and maybe you've done this too, where I'm posting something and it's going well, and I sit there refreshing, refreshing, refreshing. That's not a productive time for Dean. That's not productive. That's Dean being social. That's Dean wasting his time, doing his Dean thing on LinkedIn. But when Dean's trying to win business, he's not refreshing the screen and re-scrolling and doing all that stuff. He's doing the other stuff that makes a difference. So these are the kind of GTMs when we get into that where I say GTM, how will I do it? It's not, "Oh, I'll do a webinar." It's like, "No, no, no. I'm gonna do a webinar, right? I'm gonna grow my network every week. I'm gonna send thank you and intros. I'm gonna host a monthly event. I'm gonna do it on Zoom, or I'm gonna do it on LinkedIn Live. I'm sending, the bulk invites. Oh, and I'm also messaging people with invites. I'm gonna host the audio event, do some follow-ups, and then string it into my newsletter." It's like literally step, da, 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 da. And then alls I have to do is follow the plan. Follow the plan. Most people don't think like this because what they see is people saying, "Oh, post content, it'll all come to you." No, no. So this is the canvas I talked about. I'll happily share it with you afterwards. Just drop me a DM and I'll send it to you. Greg, I think I've just invented a salesy scale. I'm gonna put a salesy scale on things. Um, this is the canvas, and basically, there's about 8 touch points you need in this. Now, if you're doing webinars, it's a bit different because you can make it shorter, and again, with the hyper targeted outreach, you can actually, um, uh, you can make it a bit quicker. But there's the canvas, and then on the back, I've got loads of different ideas of what you can do in those sections. Yeah, so, Rich has just suggested here about me telling, so Richard was on my prospecting, my social engagement plan, and he didn't respond to me forever, right? Literally blanked me forever, and, I started engaging me, and then one day Richard bit on a post I'd put. He didn't interact with me on anything else I tried, but he bit on that. Within, I don't know, a few days of that, message about the post that had come from me interacting with Richard, within a few days, we'd been on a call. A week or so after that, Richard signed up and bought something, 200 quid, and now Richard's been a client for near coming well, it'll be 5 years. 5 years. So, that's the journey you go on, right? That's the journey. So, if you want the canvas, just drop me a message. But I want you to think about these paths. Let me just flip back to these paths. Hopefully these GTMs have helped you think and go, "Oh, I don't have that. I don't have that written down plan. I don't know what I'm doing next. I'm making this up as I go along." And maybe you're thinking, "Maybe I've been doing that for a long time. Maybe I've been making it up as I go along for a long time." So you wanna pick your path, and like I said with the 7 steps, what are you selling and who you selling it to? Because you don't have the bandwidth to be able to sell to multiple audiences, multiple personas, and sell multiple things at the same time. And you just can't do the 2 things together. You don't have enough bandwidth, and you can't focus. You don't get the clarity, and if you don't get the clarity, you can't give the clarity to somebody else. Well, which path fits you? Yeah, it's not about me saying, for some of you listening to me go, or watching me, you might go, "Actually, I'm prepared to invest the 10 hours a week, and I'm prepared to invest and say if it does take me 17, 18 months to get the content going, I'm prepared to do that." Awesome. If you're prepared to do that, awesome. And likewise, there might be some of you here going, "Do you know what? Um, I don't wanna do the content. I just wanna get prospects interested, and I wanna do it in the shortest, quickest possible time." That's gonna be very, very personalized outreach. So you've gotta think about which way works for you. Because if I said to you, "Okay, you all need to do content. You need to post 5 times a day, spend 10 hours a week." That's what you see on LinkedIn, by the way. People telling you 10 hours a week, do this, make 5 posts a week, do this, do that, do the other. But if you don't have the time to do it, you'll never sustain it. You'll never sustain it. And likewise, if I said to you, if you're maybe a coach or a solopreneur selling yourself, marketing consultant, or what have you, and I said to you, you've got to do hyper targeted, personalized outreach, and it's got really high on the sales score. So you've got to be quite, forward. I'm not saying pushy, but forward. If that's uncomfortable to you, you're never going to do it. So often when I'm talking to people, the first question they have to ask is, which one fits me? Which one fits me? Not which is the best. Which one is the best for me? Because if you have unrealistic expectations of content, you'll constantly be going, "Why is this not working? Why is this not working?" When actually it's okay that it might be hit and miss for a while. That's the first one. And then the other one is if you don't have the time to do it. So you wanna find the path that works for you. Uh, Graham, yes. Yeah. I've been telling people for about 3 years, every social media platform has followed the same playbook. So I've been telling people for years that content would become more competitive, and a lot of people were like, "Yeah, no, it won't, it'll be fine." But as LinkedIn's got busier, they will change things. So even Richard van der Bloom has seen his reach fall, and he is the supposed master of the algorithm. But you reach a point where it's like the algorithm is irrelevant. You have to find a strategy that works whether or not the algorithm is in your favor. Because I know last week I did, I know, 6, 700,000 impressions. This week, I might not get anywhere near that. It's so unpredictable. And what you're seeing in the feed right now is some people who used to get really good reach on very focused content, so like, your influencers who'd be talking about a specific topic, are now giving you generic life advice because the generic life advice sustains their visibility and their numbers. So in other words, putting out motivational quotes and life statements, that you can copy and paste from any platform, it goes viral because it's like, "Oh, yeah, we can all agree with that." It's not specific, it's not topic. They're not building, subject matter expertise. They're not building that reputation. They're just building, "I'm famous." And I've talked to them. I've talked to a lot of them doing it. They're not making any money. Well, the only money they make is selling you a course on how to do what they do, and that's how they make money. Which, if you're not selling a course on how to make money from posting content on LinkedIn, then, you know, does it really matter? Does it really matter? So look, I'm gonna sign off 'cause, it's quarter to 3 and I've got another call at 3 o'clock, and I wanna have a drink 'cause my throat's quite sore at the moment, and I don't wanna have no voice for Christmas. But, have a think about what I've shared here, the 5 predictable paths. Have a think about it, and then start to look at, "Okay, what what's my path?" And then I'm happy to chat with you or message me, and we'll go back and forth in messages. I can send you these paths, but I've got an article on these 5 predictable ways to win clients on LinkedIn. So if you want the link to the article, which just explains them a little bit more, where you can read it and digest it a bit more, drop me a message and I'll share that with you too. Um, yeah, I mean, o content, to Graham's point, content is difficult, but, I have a slightly different view than most people on content on LinkedIn. If you can convert if you've got 500 people in your network and you make they're all the same people and you make the content for them, you don't need to blow up to win clients from content. You don't need a lot of people. What works at 500 will work at 50,000, but what works at 50,000 might not work at 500. So, just think about that. Steve, yeah, just drop me a message and I'll send you the copies of the slides and links to the article. But I am going to run because I need to have a drink and not kill my voice. But thank you for joining me today. If you like what I do and you've never seen me before, come and follow me on LinkedIn. And all those people who like and comment what I post, really appreciate you because it's wonderful. Because the LinkedIn's algorithm, I hate it. They make it more and more difficult every year to do anything. So all of you who support it and help amp it out, I really do appreciate you. And if we don't speak before, have an awesome, awesome Christmas, and we'll see you in 2025.